The legal tampering period for NFL free agency in 2024 begins on Monday. So today, let's talk about some of the top free agent targets for the Washington Commanders to consider here during free agency in 2024 at all of their positions of need. And we know there's a lot of needs, so this one might be a little bit of a longer video, but thank you guys in advance for bearing with me. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. And before we get into today's free agency targets, go ahead and click that subscribe button right now, because next week, the Commanders are going to be making a lot of moves. There's going to be a lot of new Commanders added to the roster. Of course, the Commanders have been doing a bunch of cutting lately. They have the most cap space in the National Football League. GM Adam Peters, I think, is going to want to make a statement in his first year as the general manager of this team. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now so you never miss any of our breaking news updates. It's 100% free to join the family. All right, now let's talk about how much the Commanders have to spend this year in free agency, and it's just over $91.5 million. That is number one in the National Football League. That is a lot of cash to be slinging around here over the next couple of weeks or so. However, there is a lot of needs to address here. Of course, you got to get two edge rushers because you traded both of your starting edges last year at the NFL trade deadline. You got to get a new left tackle. You need a new offensive guard to play left guard. You need a center. You need a corner. You need a strong safety. You need maybe even a couple inside linebackers. You could use another wide receiver and running back. And then you also need to get a kicker after letting Joey Sly hit NFL free agency. So without further ado, guys, let's just get into the first category here, which is the edge rusher position. And this is definitely going to be an intriguing position to watch out for here. And I do think that the top target is going to be Danielle Hunter, formerly with the Minnesota Vikings. And listen, man, Hunter is a really freaking good player. Let's take a look at his numbers from last year. 23 tackles for loss. That is unbelievable right there, that figure. And then also he paired that with 16 and a half sacks. So this guy is built like a statue. You can see it on the picture on screen right now. He is savvy. He is strong. He can win with strength, with power, with speed. He can win with finesse as well. 4 forced fumbles as well. Danielle Hunter, I believe, is the bona fide number one edge rusher on the market, and that is what the Washington Commanders need to get themselves. Now, Pro Football Focus projects that Hunter is going to be worth 3 years, $21.67 million per season, okay? But personally, guys, because the salary cap just increased by a lot in the National Football League, I think this is going to go way through the roof of what Pro Football Focus is expecting. I think it's going to be a lot more than $21 million. I think it's going to be approaching $25, $26, maybe even $27 million per season. Now, are the Commanders going to be willing to pay that figure if the bidding war gets that high? Who knows? I guess we'll have to see on that. But I do expect Hunter to sign relatively early in NFL free agency, and I think the Commanders are going to be in the mix. Now, the big question for me is, I think that they're going to be in the mix for Danielle Hunter, all right? I don't really have any quibbles about that. But the big question that I have is, are they just going to settle for the one edge rusher in free agency, or are they going to try to get two solid starting edge rushers in free agency to kind of block off that position before the NFL draft? And I definitely think it's a possibility, especially if they can get Danielle Hunter for a lower price than maybe I'm expecting at $25 million. So you take a look at some potential number two edge targets. Bryce Huff is kind of more of a rotational guy, in my opinion, not a very good run defender. He's more of just a true pass rusher. And I mean, that's a little bit of a pretty penny there at $16.6 million per season over 3 years. But, if he's a number two guy, I think that you could probably make that work. Jadeveon Clowney is another guy to consider. Had a career year last year with the Baltimore Ravens and that excellent defense. $9 million for just one season. I like that value. Zadarius Smith. Goodness gracious. If you have Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter on the same defensive line, they're former teammates there with the Minnesota Vikings, by the way. 2 years, $12 million per season. Might be a little bit pricey, but the guy that I really have my eye on, guys, Josh Uche, formerly with the New England Patriots. I think he's the perfect complement to Danielle Hunter. Hunter's more of a power and finesse rusher, whereas Josh Uche is a pure speed rusher that uses his speed, his athleticism, and his bend around the corner to really provide pressure and get to quarterbacks. Right now, 1 year, $1.2 $7.25 million is the expected price for him, and I think that's a good value. And then Andrew Van Ginkel, he's a top 10 graded edge rusher in the National Football League last year. He ended up getting hurt towards the end of the season, which means that you can get him for a contract of 2 years, $6.5 million a year. I think that's an excellent value as well. Now let me know down there in the comments section, how many edge rushers do you think that the Washington Commanders should sign in free agency this year? Are you okay with just signing one and then maybe going and getting the other starter in the NFL draft? Do you want to sign 2 edge rushers? Do you want to get 3? I don't care what number you put down there. Just let me know down there in the comment section and let me know why. For today's pinned comment, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Now let's shift to the offensive line because, listen, man, we all know that the offensive line was not very good for the Washington Commanders last year, and they need a lot of help, and especially after cutting Charles Leno Jr., their starting left tackle last year, that's going to be the main priority for them this free agency period, in my opinion, because you have that, your first-round pick is number 2 overall, you're probably taking a quarterback. So, I mean, pick number 36, is one of these offensive tackles going to fall to you? I would rather not roll the dice. I would probably rather go out and get my starting left tackle in free agency, and there's some good options here. I think, the first 2 options here are very, very solid. Tyron Smith, he has the connection with Dan Quinn there with the Dallas Cowboys. He's not going to be returning to Dallas if you believe the reports out there right now, and you can get him for a 1-year deal, $10 million per season. Honestly, I would try to get him locked up for a couple of seasons. He's a really good player when he's healthy. But then Trent Brown is another guy that I would consider as well. The one red flag with him is that he doesn't have the best personality. Some people question how much he loves the game. He's had some behavior issues in the past, but last year he was a top 10 graded left tackle in the National Football League, and right now Pro Football Focus says you can get him for a 2-year deal worth $7.5 million. That's a great bang for your buck. Mekhi Becton, formerly with the New York Jets, has shown flashes throughout his career as a potential franchise left tackle, but he has not really reached his full potential at this point. He does come cheaper, though, at $5 million per season at just 1 year. Donovan Smith just got done winning a Super Bowl championship with the Kansas City Chiefs. You can get him on the cheap. Didn't have a fantastic year last year, but definitely was solid. He's got a lot of experience. 1 year, $2.5 million you could get him for. And then Jermaine Illuminor. That one's interesting to me because he's played both left and right tackle in his career, and he's also a friend of Chat Sports here, so we might even get him on the show if we end up signing him. 2 years, $7.25 million per year. I think that's a good value for Jermaine as well. So listen, guys, at the end of the day, I do think that offensive tackle and getting a franchise left tackle is going to be what's important, and I would really keep your eye on Tyron Smith being the target as we approach free agency. Now we get to the interior here, starting with the guards. And listen, man, there's a lot of good guards here in free agency coming up. It's a low-value position, so teams usually don't like to pay big bucks for their guards. Even if they're really good, they usually let them go into free agency. So this is definitely a position that I think the Commanders can find a nice value in. Kevin Zeitler, Dalton Reisner, Graham Glasnow, Greg Van Roten, and John Feliciano. All of these guys have been really good starters in this league recently, and you can get them for less than $7.5 million. All right, so I think those are really good. Really think that those are good values for the Washington Commanders moving forward, and that's something you got to consider if you are Adam Peters. And then also you need to get a center. All right, we know Nick Gates and Ricky Stromberg probably aren't the answers moving forward, but the good news is there's a lot of really, really good centers in free agency this year. Connor Williams was the number 1 graded center in the National Football League last year. You can get him for a 3-year contract, $7.5 million per season. Andre James had kind of a breakout season with Las Vegas last year, very similar contract. And then, he's the most expensive on my list here, but Lloyd Cushenberry, I do think, is the best overall fit for Cliff Kingsbury's offense. He's one of the best pass-protecting centers in the National Football League, and the price tag shows it. 4 years, $12.5 million per season is a pretty penny, but it might be worth it for a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, in my opinion. Aaron Brewer, we actually have the wrong picture on there. Aaron Brewer for the Tennessee Titans. There's multiple Aaron Brewers, so our software kind of screwed that up, so sorry about that. But 3 years, $6.67 million per season. He's been a starter in this league for multiple years, going back to 2020. And then if you want the Dallas connection, a name to really keep your eye on here, Tyler Biadasz, from the Dallas Cowboys, formerly 3 years, $7 million per season. Could totally see Tyler Biadasz come and play for the defensive coordinator for Dallas last year in new head coach Dan Quinn. So coming up here, we'll get to the secondary. We'll talk about the corners. We'll talk about the safeties. We'll talk about who the Commanders can potentially add to this room here coming into 2024. But before we get into that, go ahead and check out our friends at Fanatics. And listen, man, Dan Quinn is coming to the Washington Commanders, coming to the nation's capital. And we all know that he loves to rock that signature backwards hat look. So if you want to rock the Dan Quinn look during the 2024 season, go to chatsports.com/DQ and get a great price on this Washington Commanders ball cap, man. It's going to be a great season, great first year. I'm a big believer in DQ. I can't wait to see him coach this football team. And if you agree with me, you want to rock that Dan Quinn look this year, go to chatsports.com/DQ for a great deal on this Commanders ball cap. Now let's get into the corners here, and these are the guys that I think are probably the best fits for what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., the new defensive coordinator, want from the other starting corner opposite of Emmanuel Forbes. Chidobe Awuzie is somebody that's played a lot of man coverage in his time in the National Football League. $10.5 million per season over 2 years is what he's expected to make. Stephon Gilmore, another Cowboys connection. If you want to poach Gilmore here, we know that he works well in this system. We know that he would be a great veteran presence for a guy like Emmanuel Forbes to learn from. So if they want to bring in a hardy veteran that Forbes can learn from moving forward, I think Gilmore is somebody to keep your eye on. $10 million is expected to be his asking price. Steven Nelson, somebody that's played in a lot of different schemes and has played well. He's even played in the slot at times. He's very, very versatile cornerback, and that's very, that's very valuable in the National Football League. I expect there to be a lot of suitors for Steven Nelson as he hits free agency next week. Adoree Jackson, he's a good scheme fit. He's a press man corner, but last year with the Giants didn't play all that well. But I do think Adoree might be looking to come to the Commanders because he gets to play his old team twice a year there here in Washington. And then Sean Murphy-Bunting, another guy that I think is a really good fit for Dan Quinn's defense here. And I like that value of 1 year, $4 million per year. So corner is definitely a position that you have to look at here. Of course, you got Emmanuel Forbes, who you're hoping is going to develop into your number one corner moving forward. And I think the guy you probably really have to keep your eye on is Stephon Gilmore. Then we get to the safety position. There's a lot of good safeties this year, man. Lots of teams have been cutting some of their really good safeties because it is a lower value position and all these different things. Even Justin Simmons, a 4-time All-Pro with the Denver Broncos, just got cut because of the Russell Wilson situation they got going there with all the dead cap that they're incurring with him. But, man, right now the projection is you can get him for a 2-year contract, $11.1 million per season. I like that deal for a 4-time All-Pro. The only question is he's not the biggest guy in the world, and right now I think the Commanders might be looking for more of a strong safety as opposed to a free safety, which is what Justin Simmons has traditionally been in his career. Same thing with Jordan Poyer. He's kind of a lighter safety, more of a free safety. And I really do think you need that box safety if you are the Washington Commanders, which is why I think they're really going to be looking at Xavier McKinney. All right, super versatile safety, great athlete, good size, can play in the box. Really like what Xavier McKinney brings to the table. Now, the price tag there, $13.5 million per season. I don't know if I want to pay that, but you know what? If you can get him for less than that, I'm on board. Then you got Geno Stone, a guy that had a ton of interceptions with the Baltimore Ravens last year. And then you get Julian Blackmon, another guy that I think is an excellent fit for the Washington Commanders. I'd love to see Blackmon, the versatile, strong safety / free safety. He could play either one, come to the Washington Commanders. I think he'd be a great asset, especially at 2 years, $5.75 million per year. So we'll get into the wide receivers here in just a second, but make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. And if you're a real one, if you watch our show, if you appreciate what we do for you guys here at the Commanders Report, we really do appreciate your viewership and your support. So it really does help us out when you click that thumbs up icon. So I said wide receivers, but let's get to the inside linebackers first and finish out the defense. And listen, man, I like Jamin Davis, but he's not like a true number one dominant Fred Warner kind of guy or anything like that. So you definitely need to get somebody opposite of him. All right, Cody Barton Khaleke Hudson, all these guys are hitting free agency, so you need to get at least one inside linebacker in free agency. I like Frankie Louvu, but am I going to pay $10 million per season for him? I don't know. Jerome Baker's a good player. 7.5 is a good asking price. Azeez Al-Shaair, a really good value there at $6.75 million per year, in my opinion. Devin White, similar price, except it's just 1 year. Very athletic guy. Good, could be a team captain for this team moving forward. He's a Super Bowl champion. And then you get Blake Cashman, a really good blitzing linebacker, which is something that I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. might look at here and say, we want Blake Cashman on our football team because they want to do these exotic blitzes. They want to do the pressure packages. They want to do these simulated pressures that you're seeing around the NFL nowadays. And Blake Cashman, as a great blitzer, I think is a great fit for that. And you can get him for $4.25 million over 2 years. I really like the inside linebacker classes here. There's a lot of really good players. There's a lot of people that I had to leave off my top 5 list here, like Josie Jewell and Patrick Queen, right? Patrick Queen, the only reason why he's not on my list is because he's too damn expensive. But, man, there's a lot of good inside linebacker prospects to consider, and I think the Commanders are going to get a good one here in free agency. Then we get to the wide receiver position here. And, listen, the thing that the Commanders need is size, all right? They need size in this wide receiver room, all right? So, once again, our software screwed up. The Michael Thomas there went with the Bengals Michael Thomas instead of the Saints Michael Thomas for some reason. So apologies for that. But at the end of the day, man, we got Gabriel Davis, Tyler Boyd, DJ Chark, Michael Thomas from the Saints, not the Bengals, and Nick Westbrook-Akine. All guys that are big with good hands, are going to be hands, wide receivers, and red zone threats. Because you already have Terry McLaurin, you already have Jahan Dotson, you already have De'Ami Brown, and I like Mitchell Tinsley's skill set as well. But those 4 wide receivers, they're all 6 foot or under. You need somebody with a little bit more size that can command space in the red zone, and all of these guys on your screen right now fit that bill. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. We went through all of our free agency targets today. Which NFL free agent do you really want the Commanders to sign this year? Is it Danielle Hunter? Is it Stephon Gilmore? Is it Tyron Smith? Is it Tyler Biadasz? Is it somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section, and let me know the one player you want to see in burgundy and gold in 2024. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button because tomorrow I am going to be giving you guys my perfect Washington Commanders free agency plan. I am going to rebuild this Commanders roster. I'm going to play Adam Peters, and I am going to take the budget that you have here, the $91.5 million, and I'm going to pick the players that I am going to sign to rebuild this roster heading into 2024. You're not going to want to miss that video. It's going to be a good one, so make sure you click that subscribe button and join our family.